We've got NFL midseason awards that we're going to hand out. Plus, we've got some betting picks, NFL, college football, some of the top games, a little preview, and some betting picks for you guys. But let's start, Alex, with the midseason awards. We're right at that midseason point. Time to hand out some hardware. Let's start with the NFL MVP. At this point in the year, who is it, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be Lamar Jackson. I don't really think there's any doubt about it. I know, people look at it and say, well, he doesn't have the gaudy numbers. But to me, actually, this year, he does have the gaudy numbers. I mean, basically at the halfway point, he's sitting at 68%, about 2,400 yards, 20 TDs, and only two interceptions. And that doesn't even count the 505 yards that he's rushed for, as well as an additional two touchdowns. I think we're seeing Lamar at his peak right now. I was a person that said I don't know if he would ever get back to, in terms of the numbers, he would ever get back to what he did. And what was that, 2018-19, when he threw for 36 and 9, about 3,800 yards. But it looks like he can perhaps eclipse that, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is on track for, thought I had it up, he's on track for about 3269, and it's saying 26 TDs, but I don't believe that. I think he's going to hit more around 35. He can possibly hit around 35 TDs and maybe 10 interceptions with at the rate that they're going with what this offense is doing. And let's listen, he's number one in average yards per catch. He's number one in yards per reception. He's number one in QBR and number one in quarterback rating at 120.7 and 77.0, respectively. So he's basically sweeping all of the quarterback stats with the exception of maybe yards. And he's also leading in TD percentage for those, if anything, if any of that even matters. I just think he's completely playing out of his mind this year.
Yeah, he's been absolutely unbelievable. And last year, I talked about he played the best football of his career. He took another step as a pocket passer. And we always talk about this, especially with NFL quarterbacks. Year two with the same offensive coordinator. That's usually when we see guys really start to hone in and learn the offense is year two. So as great as he was in year one under Todd Monken, this year it's looking even better. He's looking more comfortable than ever. I love that pick. My NFL MVP is going to be Josh Allen. Look, this was supposed to be a rebuild year in Buffalo, but here the Bills are rolling along 7-2, a top 5 offense in the NFL, 17 touchdown passes, only 2 picks this season. He is playing the best football of his career. He's really learning when to run, when to pass, pulling all the right strings, taking care of the football most importantly, and they are winning games. Josh Allen playing at another level this season.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Brad. I think with the way that they're running the offense, they're actually using both running backs. James Cook, even Ray Davis has even poked out a few times doing some things as well. But he only has 211 yards rushing, and that's significant because he's not the short yardage back that he was anymore. And unless he takes some reckless, attempts like what he's been prone to do, and has done maybe about a lot less this year. But and it's 3 touchdowns, where last year he had 15 rushing touchdowns. 15. He's playing smarter with the football. The team is playing smarter offensively because their defense is not up to par the way that it is. So they're winning game basically on the offensive side with a bend don't break defense. I, as a person that people think is a Josh Allen hater, I can agree that he's playing really, really, really good. Well, actually, great football this year.
Well, on the record, you're also a Lamar Jackson hater. So people who follow the show, have been listening to the podcast for a long time, know that it's hard to get praise from Alex on these two quarterbacks. But here he is showing the love to those two guys, the two best dual threat quarterbacks in the game. How about NFL Coach of the Year? A lot of different directions we could go with this one. Who's your Coach of the Year at this point in the NFL?
Without a doubt, it is Kevin O'Connell. Now, if we rewind back and people go back and listen to the beginning of the year, I said that I really truly believed in Sam Darnold, and he's proven me right. However, it was really based upon the fact that Kevin O'Connell had been working with the Shanahan tree in terms of Kyle Shanahan as well as Sean McVay. So it was the same offense which Sam Darnold was able to sit for a year, learn the system, have no pressure on him, and now go where the same system is and have those weapons in Jordan Addison, newly returned TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, that really top 10 offensive line, and as well as Jordan Addison. And he's shown and proven that he learned with that year off in that system, that continuity, to your point that you just had about Lamar, that continuity in competent coaching for Sam Darnold. He is looking like the quarterback that was drafted third overall in a possible franchise quarterback, even though they drafted JJ McCarthy. The Vikings are a team that's going to be very interesting when they get to the offseason because Sam Darnold's on a 1 year deal.
Yeah, definitely one of the most surprising teams in the NFL. Vikings playing some great football. And look, Sam Darnold's been a big part of it. And a lot of it comes back to what Kevin O'Connell is doing, pulling all the right strings and really dialing it up and making this offense look great. And another great coaching job by him. For me, the NFL coach of the year, I think, has to be Mike Tomlin. Look, consistently the most underrated coach in the NFL. This guy has never won coach of the year, and I think it's crazy.
Wow.
The Steelers are 6-2. Only the Bills have a better point differential than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's doing it with two quarterbacks that, quite frankly, the Steelers pulled off the clearance rack. And in the modern NFL, in this day and age, to win with average quarterback play is hard enough. And this guy finds a way to win with a lot of times below average play. But here these two guys are, two quarterbacks that a lot of people have given up on. Both of them actually are playing some pretty good football. Obviously, they've moved on to Russell Wilson now. He's playing some of the best football we've seen in probably a couple of years. And the Steelers are rolling. So I think it's time Mike Tomlin gets some serious recognition for this award.
When you said that he had never won, that could have been a trivia question for $1 billion. I would have gotten it wrong because I simply would have guessed that he at some point had to be a coach. Here. Did not realize that. So yeah, he definitely, and I'm pretty sure he's been in the running previously, but he should definitely be considered at the top, especially going into the second half of this season. If they can continue to I don't want to pick up steam, then 1,000% he needs to be considered, for coach of the year.
All right. How about offensive player of the year midseason award goes to who, Alex?
I mean, do we really have to talk about this? It's gonna go. It's gonna go. It's gonna go to Derrick Henry. I mean, people thought that not necessarily that he was done, but more of the fact that he probably had already peaked and was just going to kind of maintain being around maybe high 900s to maybe 1,200 yards rushing. But lo and behold, we're at the halfway mark again. And Derrick Henry, and I did move my screen, he is already at 1,052 and 11 touchdowns. Now, from a usage standpoint, he's also the leader in the clubhouse with 168 attempts. So that's something that's going to be interesting as they head into the second half of the season that they're going to need to talk about because their bye week isn't until week 14. I only know that because I'm playing fantasy. But what he's doing, 117 yards per game. I mean, with the exception of Saquon Barkley, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's about 300 to 400 yards away from everyone else in terms of where he is in terms of yardage and what he's been putting up this year. But another King Henry season is going in the history books.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I wasn't sure how much gas he had left in the tank. He was creeping up towards that 30-year number that everyone talks about with running backs. It's kind of when we see guys' career really start to take a dive. And coming off of not one of his best seasons last year, I kind of wondered, does this guy still have it? Is he going to be more of a name than an actual producer? And man, he's proven me wrong. He has been lights out, still playing at such a high level. So you're right. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a big part of this offense, and they're going to be a scary out for anybody. My offensive player of the year, you mentioned him. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley, another big free agent signing in this offseason at the running back position. Look, at 27 years old, he's never looked better. And he's had some great moments with the Giants. He's had some up and down moments, of course, with what was a pretty shaky organization there for a while. But when he comes over to Philadelphia, not only is he making unreal highlight level plays, I mean, my goodness, last week that jump spin it looked like a Vince Carter dunk from back in the day. It was like jumping over a guy backward. I mean, it was unbelievable. Not only is he making those type of plays, what seems like every week, he's averaging 133.9 yards per game, which is ridiculous. He's also had 29 10-plus yard plays this season in 10 20-plus yard plays already this season. He has been explosive. He's been a game changer for this offense. Defensive player of the year, Alex. A few different guys here that came to mind. I had a hard time really honing in and deciding who I thought it would be. I think there's some names that jump out, but who's your guy for the midseason point?
A guy that I was looking for, hopefully the Raiders to draft, in Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, this guy has been a starter out of the gate. He plays 97% of the snaps each game. He's only allowed 30, has had been targeted 36 times, only allowed 21 catches at 58%. When you throw to his side, you're only completing the pass 58% of the time for 277 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 6 pass breakups as well. He's literally walked into the league similar to the way people talk about Sauce Gardner, but they're just simply not talking about Quinyon Mitchell because the Eagles have been such a lightning rod and up and down this season that he just simply hasn't been talked about. But he's quietly, even though he's a first-round pick and was the number 1 rated DB on the board for most people, he's quietly putting together shutdown numbers in his first year in the league.
So I actually asked you defensive player of the year. I think you came up with your defensive rookie of the year.
Oh, you know what? That's my fault. So I already gave you a rundown on that. And so people, this is what you see when you see the beard growing in. It's not that I haven't shaved, it's the old age, and that's what's happening. But defensive player of the year, I have nothing else. And now I have to go back to my screen, but I have TJ Watt. Now, listen, there's not much to really say about TJ Watt. If you've been watching any of the games, he is, Mariano Rivera. He closes out games simply. He's just been the best at his job. I don't see anybody coming close. I did have Max Crosby, but I don't see anybody coming close. It's him, it's TJ Watt, and no one else.
Yeah, I think right now you can make a strong case he's the best pass rusher in the game. He absolutely wrecks games. I mean, he wrecks games week in and week out. And I think he's a little bit underrated as an all-around defender. I think we think of him in the sacks and as this great pass rusher, which he is. But this is a guy that knocks passes down at the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that gets in the backfield and stops running backs on big third downs. Just an unbelievable all-around player. And I considered him for my DPOY, but I went a little bit off track here. And a guy that maybe people aren't talking about for this award, and I think they should be. Linebacker Fred Warner for the 49ers. This guy has 66 tackles already, 6 passes defended, 1 pick, 1 sack, 4 forced fumbles. Look, like I said, pass rushers, they tend to get the most attention, and I get it, especially when we're talking about this award. But Warner right now is the best off-ball linebacker that we've seen in this league in years, and he is playing probably his best football of his career right now.
Yeah, and I'm excuse me. I'm not sure if you mentioned his 6 pass deflections as well as the league leader in the clubhouse with 4 forced fumbles. So he's putting up, similar Ray Lewis style numbers. And I guess maybe because the 49ers on a little bit of a slide, he's not getting talked about as much as the failures of the team and the crazy offseason they had with all the wide receivers, with the exception of Deebo Samuel, how crazy that it was. Somebody getting shot, Brendan Ayuk contract, and then he's out for the season. So, and then excuse me, and then also their best player and Christian McCaffrey being out. By the way, he's back practicing. He's probably been a forgotten player because he's the one constant on that team. Nick Bosa's name is not really being mentioned a lot when it comes to those 49ers. He's still a guy, and guys can have a down year. That's fine. but Fred Warner has been the one stalwart on this team on defense, pulling everything together.
All right. So since you slipped up and already gave us your defensive rookie of the year, I'll go ahead and give you mine, Alex. I'm taking Packers safety Evan Williams. This guy is already becoming one of the top defensive players in the NFL. He plays like a veteran in coverage. He has made big time key plays and key moments. He is only allowed 6 receptions in coverage so far. Outstanding play from this guy. And look, a team that just seems to draft so well, a team that historically drafts and develops talent as good as anybody. It looks like they found another diamond in the rough with this kid.
Okay, so no, me and Brad had a pre-production conversation about, because I actually had to look the kid up because the name wasn't just connecting with me initially. Now he didn't start to our conversation early before the pod started. He didn't start every game, but these last 3 games, when I got a quick chance to kind of glance and see the pick up and tick, as they like to say, he's picked up his play a lot, and I can see the difference that he's making from a stat standpoint. And I might have missed the fact that he was on the field because he's only started 3 games, but he's played in 8. He was playing about maybe 42% of the snaps, but in the last 3 games, has been picked up to about 82 to 85% over the last 3 games. And obviously, there's an impact that's happening in the back end of that, well, along with Xavier McKinney back there. So there's a lot going on. Brad, before we move on, I want to, excuse me, make mention of one other person. And he's not a big name that people are going to talk about. He's similar to your guy. He's only started 4 games out of the 8 games. But a friend of ours, nephew Malik Mustafa, he's had a lot of pop plays in games and I just think he deserves a mention because it's a 4th round pick out of let me see, where's he out of? Oh, out of actually right here in North Carolina, Wake Forest. And he's just had some big pop plays. He's a small guy. He's only 5'10", 206 pounds, but he plays like he's about 6'2", about 220 pounds when he lays down the hammer. So I just want to give an honorable mention to him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys playing some lights out football. All right, Alex, let's get to some of the big games, some of the marquee games. We've got 2 big NFL games, 2 big college football games that we're going to preview and make some betting picks for, of course. Let's start in the NFL. Talked about Mike Tomlin a minute ago. Talked about the Steelers team. They're 6-2 at Washington, who's 7-2. Commanders are a 3-point favorite going into this one. Look, the Commanders have been maybe the most surprising team in the NFL this year. Jaden Daniels, obviously offensive rookie of the year. I think that's been a slam dunk right now. He's been great. I think the defense in Washington has been better than we expected coming into the year. Dan Quinn obviously takes over. He's a defensive guy, so maybe we should have expected that. Who do you like in this game? What matchups are you circling here in this one?
Well, I'm glad that we did mention Jaden Daniels because going through our mid-season awards, we forgot to mention our offensive rookies of the year. So Jaden Daniels definitely was mine for the most part. So I will say, I don't know, I have something in my throat now, so excuse me. I'm looking for the matchup of Brandon Coleman versus TJ Watt. That's number 1. Number 2 is Jaden Daniels versus whatever Minkah Fitzpatrick and Mike Tomlin, who originally comes as a DB's coach, but Minkah Fitzpatrick back there and what they're going to do with kind of taking away Terry McLaurin, because Joey Porter, good corner, but something that you said is similar to Terrion Arnold, he can get a big grab because he doesn't have the speed. He's long, lanky, but he doesn't have the speed. Has a tendency to kind of hold on a little bit, depending upon what side he's on. But let's see what they do with Minkah Fitzpatrick in terms of, will he spy sometimes? Will he blitz sometimes? Maybe they can get creative. Obviously he's gonna be over the top a little bit on some plays where they can figure they may try and go to Terry McLaurin. But those will be the big matchups I'm looking for. But the left tackle versus TJ Watt, and then the chess match that'll be going on between the defensive and offensive coordinator really between Minka Fitzpatrick and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I look at this matchup. Look, I think Pittsburgh matches up pretty well in this game. Now, Tomlin in this spot as an underdog on the road, 61% against the spread in his career. These are the type of games that his teams really get up for. Here's another stat for you. Tomlin's record is 24-6 against rookie quarterbacks. He clearly knows how to prepare his defense to really mess with these young quarterbacks. Pittsburgh, like I said, I like the way they match up, especially the way this defense matches up. And look, they face Lamar Jackson twice a year, and they have had more success versus him than just about anyone in the league. They're used to seeing a dual threat quarterback like this who can really run. Plus, the Steelers coming off of a bye, extra rest, extra time to prepare. Look, I got Pittsburgh +3. Give me the points in the Steelers here.
I can agree there too. I had to think and I was trying to think and see. I wanted to see what the over under was on that game. And I see it's 45 and a half. And I can see that. That game
Ooh.
is at home for Washington, but Steelers have defense, will travel. I will honestly, yeah, I'll lay the well actually I see Washington giving up 3. Is that what you said, Brad?
Yeah, I'm taking Pittsburgh plus
Plus
3.
3. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, definitely have to take.
yeah.
Okay, I definitely have to take Pittsburgh +3. And you know what? And I'm going to take the over on that as well.
Okay. Yeah, and the over under is interesting. That's a low over under, which I think lends itself to Pittsburgh possibly covering and maybe upsetting Washington here. Because if Vegas thinks this is going to be low scoring, I think that does favor a team like the Steelers here. Now, another big time matchup. This is the Sunday night football game. So I know everybody's going to be watching this one. The 7-1 Detroit Lions taking on the 6-3 Houston Texans. Detroit right now is a 3.5 point favorite. This line has been moving a lot. I've seen it kind of go back and forth. I've seen it go all the way down to 2.5. I saw it go all the way up to 4 at one point. The matchup for me, Alex, that really jumps out is this Lions offensive line and their run game versus that Texans rush defense. I think it's a total mismatch.
Yeah, I have to agree. These guys are both in terms of their edge rushes a lot. Daniil can play the run and the pass because he's had his hand in the dirt, but primarily these guys are set up to be pass rushers. And they don't have the linebackers in that 3-4 defense to really handle what that line's offensive line is going to do to them. So start your Montgomery if you have him. Start Gibbs if you have him. Obviously, always start Amon St. Brown or Amon St. Brown, whichever way that you say it, no matter what. And you know what? One thing that we can't forget, Jared Goff has been on a tear at 80%, no interceptions, only throwing the ball no more than 22 to 25 times a game. And that defense, though missing Aiden Hutchinson, they did just pick up, if I'm not mistaken, we should probably talk about some of the trades that happened, but they did pick up Zadarius Smith as well. So it should be very interesting to see how this new Detroit offensive line looks as that starts to come together as well. But I completely, excuse me, am going to lay the points, and I'm also going to take the over. I think Detroit is just happens to be on fire at this point in time, and they're just going to be unstoppable for what they're about to do to Houston. And Houston's taking a step back. CJ Stroud, defenses have caught up to the offense, which happens with young quarterbacks while they try to still figure things out. It's not an indictment against him. It's just the simple growing pains. Nobody's going to come in and just be lights out from day one and keep moving forward. Defenses do catch up, and he's just having an ordinary year as opposed to the year that he had last year. But we'll watch and see as he matriculates.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Houston's O line is struggling, and I think they're struggling to protect CJ Stroud. And I think that's also part of it. To your point, I think teams have kind of caught on to what they do, and the protection hasn't been as good. And so his play hasn't been as good as what we saw last year. Now, look, we talked about MVP picks. I think Goff deserves an honorable mention here at the very least. he's playing MVP level football right now, and he's behind the best offensive line in the game. I think with Houston, all the injuries, the way Detroit's playing, the most complete team in the NFL, I'm taking Houston here too, and I'm going to lay the 3.5. I hate laying that half point. That can be such a killer. You guys who bet football, anytime it gets over that key number of 3, obviously you're looking at a field goal difference. That half point can be a killer, but I have a hard time thinking that the Lions don't really take control of this game and end up winning by a touchdown or more here.
They will, of course, Brad. And let's remember, Brad, they're also missing Diggs is now out for the year. We know that Nico Collins is on IR. They only have Tank Dell and Schultz. Now Joe Mixon is a monster, but I think laying a half point, you can feel rest easy laying that half point.
College football, we've got 2 big top 25 matchups, both down south in the SEC. Let's start with number 3 Georgia, number 16 Ole Miss. Obviously, the college football playoff rankings just came out, so these rankings are now official. It's not just the AP anymore. Georgia has won 4 straight games since that loss to Alabama. Ole Miss is coming in, and they've won 2 straight games against unranked opponents after losing to Kentucky and LSU in a 3-game stretch. It seems like they've kind of righted the ship here a little bit. But now Ole Miss in that offense, they're coming in one of the hottest offenses in college football. Excuse me. What do you think of this matchup here? What are you looking for in this game, Alex?
Looking for Ole Miss to lose so Florida can get Lane Kiffin. Sorry, folks. This is my narrative the whole way through. But in all honesty, I actually think Ole Miss is going to pull this one. Is going to be able to pull this one out. I think Lane Kiffin is going to make a try and make a push. I see they are ranked at 16 right now, so they're going to try and get this big win here over a ranked team and try and make a push to see if they can get in that playoff in the college football playoff bubble.
Yeah, when you look at this game, look, Ole Miss can't afford to lose this game. This is huge. They can't afford to lose this game because this is their opportunity right here to make a case for a spot in the college football playoff. More than likely, obviously, they're going to be an at-large bid, but they can't afford to lose this one. And if they knock off a number 3 Georgia team, that is a huge piece of their resume that could get them in the playoff. So this is a monster game. Now, we know Georgia, elite head coach with Kirby Smart. They've got a strong defense that's playing some good football. I think this is a team that's built to win a big road game like this, but I like Ole Miss here, and I think they're going to put pressure on Carson Beck and the Bulldogs. I think they're going to put pressure on their offense, I should say, to try to keep up with this Ole Miss offense that is really playing good, especially the last couple of weeks. I trust Jackson Dart over Beck. Never thought I'd say that at the start of the year. Give me Ole Miss plus 2.5 at home, and I'm going to put some on the money line as well. I think they knock off LSU.
Yeah, and I have to say that, we when I say we, Florida's not a good team. And last week, Georgia struggled. And remember, Lagway is out, got hurt in that game. We were going with, and both of our, Graham Mertz is out as well. We were going with a nobody, and they struggle. And our team is not good. We have guys, but they're just not a well put together team. And they struggle with us. They did end up beating us by 14, but initially, they struggled until they got to the fourth quarter and they pulled away with those 14 extra points. So I don't know. Georgia is primed for the picking. And you're right. Carson Beck, when we look at him in big games, he does not show up.
Yeah, very, very hot and cold quarterback. I mean, he can have a series here and there where he looks lights out. He looks like a first round pick. And then other times he'll just throw these awful interceptions, make terrible decisions with the football, and it makes you question, well, what happened to the guy that just threw 3 touchdowns in the first half and all of a sudden throws 3 picks in the second half? It's crazy how up and down this guy's been. It's tough to trust him in these big spots. Now, number 11, Alabama, number 15, LSU. This is a pretty big game. This is a sneaky big game here because similar to the last game, I think Georgia has a little bit of leeway here. They could afford to lose a game, still end up in this playoff. But these two teams, they cannot afford to lose this game. This essentially has become a de facto playoff game in the middle of the season here. Both teams are 6-2. And I think the loser is basically out of the college football playoff. So you want to talk about a big, big regular season game? This is about as big as it gets.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Alabama out the gate. I trust Jalen Miro. I trust Kalen DeBoer. I do not believe in LSU. I'm not sure what's going on there. I know they have big time recruits coming in, but this year I'm not a fan of Nussmeier at all. He did have one or two good games that I did see him make some comebacks on, but I'm going to take Alabama going into LSU, and as Alabama's and laying the 3 point, I'm going to lay the 3 points. And I'll probably take the under because, well, actually, you know what? I think 60 points. I think they could put up 60 points in that game altogether, even if Alabama runs over them. I think they'll put up 60 points and go with, so I'll go with the over in terms of 58.5. But I'm taking Alabama confidently here in this game in Louisiana, in their home stadium to beat them.
Yeah, Alabama's defense has forced 3 or more takeaways in 4 of the last 5 games. LSU has been turnover prone. So I think that's something to watch in this game. I think the turnover battle is going to be absolutely huge in this game. Alabama, they really couldn't get the run game going in those 2 losses. I think they could find success on the ground in this one because LSU hasn't been good stopping the run. So I think that's another key component to this game to watch. Can Alabama run the ball effectively in this game? But if this game turns into a shootout, I like LSU in a shootout here. I think they have the weapons. I think they have the weapons, especially on the outside, to move the ball versus this Bama secondary. The Tigers, look, there's no way around it. They've got one of the best home field advantages in all of college football, and I love a home dog. So, look, I'm taking LSU and the points here. This should be a heck of a game. I'm not sure I believe in either one of these teams, to be honest. And really, Alex, number 11, number 15, I think those rankings have a little more to do with the brand of those two programs than they do the reality of those two programs. That's a nice way of saying they're overrated. So I don't really love either one of these teams, to be honest with you, but I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game because I think they match up pretty well in this one.
As you were talking, I was taking a look to see who, if they're number 11. So let's just let's have some fun real quick. So 11, let's do 11 through 18. So 11 is Alabama, 12 is Boise State, 13 is SMU, Texas A&M at 14, LSU at 15, 16 is Ole Miss, 17 is Iowa State, 18 is Pitt. So what teams? Can you give me the shuffle? Where would you put Alabama? I'm assuming you leave LSU alone because they're outside of the top 12. But where were you putting? What are you moving? What are you doing with Alabama?
Look, I think let's put it this way. I think the reason that they're up that high, like I said, I think it has more to do with the brand, but I also think the committee put a lot of weight on that win over Georgia. And I get that. You know, that was a big win, but you can't ignore the fact that they lost to Vanderbilt. And it's like those almost cancel each other out in a lot of ways. They're a hard team to figure out. They've also had a lot of shaky performances, some games that they kind of squeaked by. None of these teams have really been dominant. So I think the only team really in this group of top teams that's really been pretty dominant since the first couple of weeks, or I should say outside of the first couple of weeks,
Is Oregon.
Is Oregon. And their only close game was Ohio State, which look, Ohio State's one of those elite teams, but they get the win there. But every other team they've played that they should handle, they've handled. So outside of them, there's kind of some blemishes with all these teams. But man, college football is getting fun, and these games are going to be so fun to watch. And we've got some big time NFL games to watch. This weekend is going to be so much fun. Guys, if you enjoy this episode and if you enjoy the podcast as a whole, Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Go ahead and check out the website, pintglassfootball.com. Give us a follow at PGF Podcast on Twitter. We're putting out all kinds of stuff, guys. There's tons of content for you guys to check out. So I hope you guys do that for us.